Hello, I am Emma, head florist here at Green Parlour, and welcome to another part of our winter flower mini series. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a hand-tied bouquet in a low circular vase, and I hope that you're going to have a go at home. First of all, let's give you a rundown of the flowers that I'm going to be using. Some of them aren't strictly winter flowers, but this is for a client's arrangement, so I've added in a few additional flowers that they've requested. But I can guarantee you it's still packed full of those lovely winter flowers and rolling into those lovely spring flowers. If you've watched my introduction video, you will know that I am a big fan of both the Ranunculus and the Anemones, and they're going to feature quite heavily in our hand-tied bouquet. We've also got some Eryngium, we've got Viburnum, Tulips, flowering Viburnum, some roses, and we're going to be using some Pussy Willow and lots of seasonal foliages. First off, I'm going to make some room on the table by laying out my flowers. I like to lay them out so I can prepare each stem before I use it. This means I'm doing less while I'm trying to arrange, which can get a bit tricky with putting your hands in the right location. So for this display, I'm using 2 stems of Eryngium, 3 Eustoma. I'm probably going to use kind of 5 or 6 of these lovely Ranunculus here. Viburnum, probably 2 or 3 stems, 5 stems of roses, maybe 7. I might be indulgent and do 10 stems of the Anemones, and lots of lovely tulips as well, probably around 10 stems of tulips to complement. Foliage, I'm just going to be kind of playing it by ear, but I've got approximately a quarter of a bunch of each type of eucalyptus to use, and some viburnum and a little bit of bay as well, which I think just smells incredible at this time of year. You're doing a hand tie, there's lots to think about. First of all, you need to think about the height of your vase and how high your flower display is going to be within that. I like to use a rule of thumb that my flower displays are the height of the vase again, so this height and again, and then just a little bit on top. Some people say you should have them a little bit higher and you should do twice the height of the vase, but for me, I prefer that kind of lower squat arrangement. And so just the height of the vase and then add a little bit is normally fine. We're going to be using a spiral technique for our arranging. The spiral technique makes sure that the tie point where you're holding your flowers in your left hand is nice and small and not too wide. It also makes sure that the flowers don't get crushed when you're arranging them. To start off our hand tie bouquet, I'm going to grab a stem of Viburnum, and again I'm now going to be thinking about how high I want this. So where I'm holding with my left hand is my tie point, and you want that to just slightly sit within the lip of the vase so that it's kind of nestled down a little bit. So I'm thinking my tie point should be about there, which feels about right. That's a nice height on my vase without it kind of getting too overtaken. I'm starting with the Viburnum because it's a beautiful flower to have as your main kind of central point to the display. We're going to be turning and working our arrangement, so we're going to be adding lots more in, but I find starting off with what we call a filler flower, a flower that's got multiple heads per stem, is always preferable than starting with a focus flower in our hand-tied bouquets. I don't want to put too much foliage in my bouquet to start with, so I've got my Viburnum. I'm now just going to pop a little bit of the garden Viburnum in as well. The main thing to make sure when you're adding your flowers and your foliage in is that there are no leaves sitting on or below the tie point, so where you're holding the bouquet and below. We're going to add those next to our Viburnum. And I'm going to just do 2 pieces of foliage, a bit of bay now. You can see I'm taking the leaves off next to there. And then I'm going to pop in a more focal flower, the rose here. And then we're going to do a quarter turn. So we're going to go like this, a quarter turn, and then we're going to add in our next kind of 2 to 3 flowers. Ranunculus, these wiggly bits are going to be below the tie point, but I could use those a bit later on. I'm going to pop it in like this. A bit more foliage, like that. And some tulips as well. Now the tulips are quite chunky stems, you can see the leaf there. And so what we want to do is just remove that lower leaf and pop it in. All my stems are going in at the same angle, and that's going to give us the lovely spiral. You can adjust the height of things by pulling them down and up, but this is our kind of tallest point that we want. And it doesn't matter that the viburnum's kind of flopping about as well. You can turn him, twist him in a little bit later on. We're going to do our quarter turn again, and then we're going to put our next flowers through our arrangement. So ranunculus, I'm going to do an anemone, and I'm going to do another tulip actually, because I've got quite a few tulips that I'm going to be putting in my display. Another quarter turn, and we just work our way around the bouquet, adding in a variety of flowers that we've chosen. I'm putting in some thistles. This is for a new baby, this bouquet. So I'm going to use the blue of the thistle and some of the lovely Nicola eucalyptus as well. This one's a bit tall, so I'm just going to remove those lower leaves there and place within. A quarter turn, and you're ready to add in your next item. And I'm going to go in with the viburnum again. Some anemones. And I'm looking at the bouquet, I'm looking at how it's kind of coming together. I'm looking at it from above, but I am also considering it from the sides as well. And that is the key to a good hand tie, is being able to see where you've got holes, where you want the flowers recessed, a bit taller, where your focal flowers are sitting. And you can kind of manipulate them to where you want them to go as well. I'm going to use some of the eustoma now. This comes on quite long stems, and you can see it has lots of different branches. So because we're doing this for a vase arrangement, I would suggest removing some of the branches. So you've got thinner flower heads, and just placing those through your arrangement, like so. And again, removing the leaves all the way down. And just placing within your display here. And you can use this technique for any type of flower arranging you're doing. If you're using, say, a tulip bouquet and you want to do it en masse, you can use this spiraled technique to create your arrangement. So it's not just for mixed bouquets, you can use it for any type of display that you're creating at home. It does take a little bit of practice, so don't be put off if the first time you do it, it feels a little bit weird and a little bit odd. It's all about muscle memory, flower arranging. The more you practice, the more used to your muscles get about holding things in unusual and different ways. I'm just tweaking as I go. You can see I'm always critically looking at it, checking things at the height that I want them to be, checking that they're in the location that I want them to be as well. I like to use this fluffier eucalyptus around the bottom of my hand-tied bouquet. I haven't finished it yet, but what the eucalyptus does, this particularly this softer variety, is that it makes it feel a lot more delicate and a lot less kind of too rigid, I suppose, is the right way to put it. And I just thread that through all the way around, making sure that my kind of foliage matches all the way around as well. So if I've used Viburnum in the top, I want to make sure there is some around the edges as well, so that the whole display connects together, so it doesn't look completely off-piste. Once I've finished arranging my bouquet, I'm just going to make sure that when I cut my stems, I'm cutting them to the right height. So to do this, the really easy way is to pull your vase to the edge of the table, hold your bouquet up where you want it to sit, and then just cut your stems to that length. You also need to tie off your bouquet. Although you can place a spiral directly into a vase, I like to tie off with a little bit of string. Mine's got a wire in it so that I can twist the stems together. I prefer using a string with a wire in it so that it doesn't kind of dig into the stems when I'm tightening the knot. So the wire just means that you can wrap your bind wire around your bouquet and just gently twist it a few times. It gives it still the strength that it needs. You've still tied it, but it means that it's not cutting into those stems, as I said. And then we're just going to place it in your vase. Now this is the opportunity to kind of look around your display, add in anything that might need adding in. I might just add in another ranunculus or two because I've got a few kind of holes here. And you don't need to tie these in if you don't want to, especially if it's in a vase. You can just thread in then any additional stems that are required, and just make sure that you're happy with how everything is sitting. And then finally, as I said, I wanted this to be quite seasonal, so I am going to be adding some of the Pussy Willow through. Just a few stems, because for me this is super wintry and will be a lovely kind of addition to the display. So just poking these through. As I said, you don't need to tie these in. These can just kind of poke through your display. This one's perhaps a little bit tall, so I might just nip out the stem there where the actual catkin is. And there we have it, a beautiful late winter / early spring hand-tied display in a vase that's ready to be enjoyed.